The proud rooster and the fox. The rooster had always believed he was the most important creature on the entire farm. Every morning before the sun rose, he hopped onto the old wooden fence, puffed out his chest, and crowed like the world depended on it. And maybe in his mind it did. He imagined the sun wouldn't dare rise unless it heard his voice first. The cows could moo, the dogs could bark, the horses could neigh, but none of it seemed as grand or powerful as his mighty morning call. He strutted across the yard with the confidence of a king, lifting his legs a little higher than necessary, shaking his bright feathers so everyone noticed. To him, he wasn't just a rooster, he was the rooster. Every animal on the farm knew he was proud. Some found it funny, some found it annoying, but no one really hated him. They just wished he would sometimes soften his attitude and act like the rest of them, sharing the space instead of claiming it. The old goat liked to say, "He's a good soul, but he loves to look at himself a little too much," and everyone agreed. The rooster heard this once, pretended he didn't care, then went back to polishing his feathers with extra flair. One late afternoon, while the sun was settling low and warm light stretched across the fields, the rooster climbed onto a hay bale and admired his reflection in a metal bucket. His feathers shimmered in the fading daylight, full of reds and oranges that reminded him of autumn leaves. The longer he looked, the more he loved what he saw. He tilted his head left and right, fluttered his wings dramatically, and even practiced a few poses that made him chuckle. He didn't think anyone would see him, but a pair of sharp eyes was watching from the nearby woods, studying every movement as silently as a shadow. A fox had been wandering near the farm for weeks, hoping to find the right moment to grab a meal. He wasn't reckless. He knew the farmer kept a rifle, and the dogs barked loud enough to scare off anything smaller than a bear. But the fox was patient, clever, and always thinking 3 steps ahead. And lately, he had noticed the rooster's routine. He saw the rooster walk proudly across open spaces, turning his back to danger because he trusted his own importance too much. The fox knew arrogance when he saw it, and arrogance often came with blind spots. That evening, as the rooster admired himself in the reflection and strutted around like the star of a parade, the fox slunk closer, keeping low to the ground. His steps were silent, practiced, and slow. He watched the rooster fluff his chest and brag loudly about how no one else in the world could crow the way he could. The fox smirked to himself. "Perfect," he whispered, his voice almost a breath. The rooster didn't notice a thing. He was too busy imagining that someday someone might paint a portrait of him and hang it in a fancy hallway. He practiced poses, lifted one leg, twisted his neck, and pretended a painter stood in front of him with a brush, capturing all his beauty. His thoughts drifted like feathers in the wind, full of pride and sparkle. And that was when the fox stepped from behind a bush, wearing a sly smile that didn't reach his calculating eyes. "Well, well," the fox called softly, like a friend greeting another. "If it isn't the most handsome creature I've ever seen." The rooster spun around quickly, surprised and flattered at the same time. Compliments were his weakness, and he never turned one down. "Oh, I didn't see you there," he said, standing a little taller. "But yes, I suppose I am rather fine-looking today." "Today?" the fox echoed. "My friend, you look magnificent every day. I've traveled through forests and fields, and I've never seen a bird with feathers that glow the way yours do. It's as if the sun itself chose you to show off its light." The rooster's chest swelled. His feathers stretched proudly. "Well, I can't disagree," he said, trying to act humble but completely failing. "It takes a lot of work to look this good, you know?" "Oh, I believe it," the fox said smoothly. He took a step closer. "The way you carry yourself, the way you stand tall, anyone can tell you were born to be admired. In fact, I'm surprised crowds haven't gathered just to watch you." Crowds. The rooster loved the sound of that. He imagined animals lining up just to applaud him. His eyes softened dreamily. "Well, I suppose people haven't realized my greatness yet." "They will," the fox said. "They absolutely will. But you know what would help? If you crowed right now. I mean, just imagine the sound echoing across the fields at sunset. It would be breathtaking." The rooster hesitated. "Crowing? At sunset? That's not when I normally do it. That's exactly why it would be special, the fox replied. It would show that you're not just the morning star. You shine all day. The rooster felt a spark of excitement. His ego swelled again. You know, that's actually a pretty good idea. The fox nodded, his tail flicking slowly behind him. Go on then. Give me your loudest crow. I came all this way just to hear it. The rooster hopped onto the fence, proud of the attention. He raised his chest, tilted back his head, and let out his most powerful crow. It echoed across the fields, sharp and triumphant. The fox pretended to gasp in awe. Magnificent, he whispered. Absolutely magnificent. The rooster crowed again, and again, each time louder than before. The fox eased closer with every crow until he stood just a few feet away. The rooster didn't even look down. He was too busy enjoying the sound of his own voice and imagining applause. But arrogance has a way of stealing awareness, and the rooster never noticed how dangerously close the fox had gotten. In one smooth motion, quicker than a blink, the fox jumped upward, jaws open, ready to grab the rooster. But at that exact moment, the rooster slipped. His foot missed the top rail of the fence, and he toppled backward, flapping his wings wildly. He landed in a pile of hay, feathers bent and pride bruised. The fox's jaws snapped closed in empty air, missing him by inches. The fox fell back onto the ground with a frustrated growl. The rooster scrambled up, heart pounding. At last he realized what was happening. His pride shattered like glass. He wasn't being admired, he was being hunted. And he had practically invited the danger closer with every arrogant crow. He panicked and ran toward the nearest coop, legs moving wildly. The fox chased him, but the rooster had terror fueling him now. He darted past barrels, leapt over a broken cart, and flung himself through the coop door just as the farmer's dog burst out barking furiously. The fox knew better than to challenge the dog, so he sprinted away into the woods, furious and humiliated. Inside the coop, the rooster collapsed onto the straw, panting heavily. The hens rushed around him, clucking with worry. He waved them off weakly and stared at the ground, his whole body trembling. He had almost become dinner. And why? Because he thought he was too special to be cautious, too important to pay attention, too admired to be in danger. His arrogance had nearly cost him his life. That night, while the hens settled and the farm fell quiet, the rooster lay awake replaying everything in his mind. Every compliment, every moment of showing off, every time he ignored warnings from others. It all seemed so foolish now. Pride had blinded him to the simplest truth. Real strength comes from humility, not showing off. The next morning, when the sun crept over the horizon, the rooster stepped outside quietly. He climbed onto his favorite fence post. But this time there was no dramatic feather shake, no chest puff, no exaggerated stance. He simply crowed once, clear and steady, just enough to let the farm know the day had begun. Then he hopped down without waiting for admiration. The goats noticed, the cows noticed, even the horses noticed. What's gotten into him? One asked quietly. He learned something, the old goat said with a wise nod. Something important. From that day on, the rooster changed. He still crowed each morning. Of course he did. It was his job. But he didn't walk around like the world depended on him. He didn't stop to admire himself in shiny surfaces. And he didn't brag about his feathers or expect applause. He listened more. He noticed more. And when someone complimented him, he simply smiled and said thank you instead of expanding his chest like a balloon. The fox never returned to the farm, partly because of the dog and partly because he felt tricked by his own scheme. He had underestimated the chaos that panic could create. But somewhere deep inside, he knew the rooster wouldn't fall for flattery so easily again. And the rooster? He grew wiser, calmer, and more aware. Not perfect, he still had moments where he stood a little taller than necessary, but he never let pride cloud his judgment again. He learned that arrogance doesn't make you safer or stronger. It only blinds you to the dangers standing right in front of you. And sometimes, the greatest lesson comes the moment you realize just how close you came to losing everything. Moral of the story: arrogance can be dangerous.